Hey guys, welcome to another video by Simplilearn. In our previous session, we learned about JavaScript arrays. So taking a step forward, we're going to learn about JavaScript objects in this video. So without further ado, let's begin and look at what's in store for us. First, we'll start by understanding what a JavaScript object is. Then, we'll learn how to create a JavaScript object and also get to know about the properties of these objects. After that, we'll get familiar with using JavaScript methods. Lastly, we'll understand what JavaScript accessors are. So what is a JavaScript object? JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language, so everything in Java is an object. A JavaScript object is like a real-world entity having state and behavior, for example, a car. Now we can take a car as an object. It will have its state like color and model. It will also have behaviors like accelerate and brake. JavaScript is template based and we can create objects without having the need to create a class. Generally, object is accompanied by a class that defines an object's blueprints, but JavaScript doesn't require any class to be defined for objects. Moving on to the next concept, to create a JavaScript object. Now basically there are three different ways of creating a JavaScript object. Alright, so we'll look at them one by one. The first one is to use a literal to create and define a JavaScript object. So let's go to our VS Code editor. Now if you have any doubts regarding the initial setup, then I suggest you go through the previous video, that is JavaScript arrays, to get you started with it. So here I've created a folder called demo objects, and now I'm going to create a file called create_objects.html. Alright, so we'll begin by writing the initial code, that is the head and the body. So I say HTML, within this I create the head tag, and then I create a title tag, and let's say JavaScript objects. Then after the head tag, I'm going to create a body tag. And let's create a heading and say creating JavaScript objects. Okay. And now we create an ID. All of this is explained in the previous video. I really suggest you go through the video beforehand so that you get a clear picture. And then I say ID equals, say demo, and then I'm going to close it. Now the first method that we're going to use to create an object is by using object literals, right? So what we can do is say script within which I declare a variable, say var student. Now within the object, we're going to create three different properties. Now this is basically like a dictionary. It has a property, a key, and then a value. Okay, so I say name property, and let's say Chris. And then another property, say age, and say 21. And another property, say studies, and say maybe computer science. Okay, so this is the syntax used to create an object using an object literal. Now after this, what we're going to do is we're going to display this. Right, now we want to display the message saying Chris of age 21 studies computer science. So what we can do is say document.getElementById, and the ID that we're going to pass is demo, and we say inner HTML equals student.name, which is Chris, after which we display the message of the age, and then the age, that is student.age, studies, student.studies. Okay, let's save this, and when we execute the file, it says Chris of the age 21 studies computer science. Alright, this is one of the ways in which you can define an object. Alright, so moving on to the next way of creating a JavaScript object, it is to use the new keyword. Now this is the most traditional way of creating an object, right? So let's go back to our VS Code. Let's create another script within which we say var student equals new object. I'm sure everybody has learned the same way, the same syntax. So this is one of the ways. After which we can say student.name equals Chris. Again, student.age equals 21. And then student.studies equals computer science. Alright, now after this we again display the message. So let me just copy this. Alright, so let's save this and run our code again. And there we go. It displays the message Chris of the age 21 studies computer science. Alright, this was the second method used to create an object. Alright, so then moving on to the third method, it is to use an object constructor to create and define a JavaScript object. So let's go back to our code editor, and here we define a function. So we say function, say stud, with 3 parameters, that is name, age, and say studies. Okay, and now within the function we use the keyword this. So we say this.name equals name. Alright, we say this.age equals age. We say this.studies equals studies. Now what we do is that we can create a variable and pass parameters to the function. So we say var student equals stud, and within braces we say Chris, comma 21, comma computer science. Alright, so we've done passing the parameters. After this, we're going to copy the same print message here. Alright, so let's save this and execute our file. So let's refresh the web page. And there we go. It still displays the message, Chris of the age 21 studies computer science. So this was the third method that can be used to create objects. Moving on to the next topic, object properties. Now a JavaScript object is basically a collection of unordered properties, right? Values associated with the JavaScript object are called its properties. And properties can usually be added, updated, or deleted, excluding read-only properties. So now let's have a look at the demo to help you understand this better. So let me go back to my VS Code. So this was where we left off, and this was how we created objects, right? So now let me create another file, and let me call it objects_properties.html. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the first piece of code here. Alright, let me just copy this into my new file. And here, as you can see, student is the object that we've created, and name, age, and studies are the three properties. Now say we want to update the age. Alright, so what we can do is here we can just say student.age equals, let me change it to 24. Alright, and let me save this, and when we execute the file, that was object_properties, you can see Chris of the age 24. So 21 is updated to 24. So this is one of the ways you can do it. Or there's another method. You can just assign the property to a variable and then display the variable instead. So what we can do is we can just assign student.age to a property, say x. And here, instead of displaying student.age, we can just say x. Alright, so let's save this. And when we run it, it says 21 because we haven't updated 21 to 24 anywhere. Alright, so 21 remains the same. So another method we can use is we can just say x equals age. So we're directly assigning the property to the variable. And here, when I'm displaying it, I say student of x. Alright, so let me save this. And when you look at the web page, it still displays the same thing. These are different ways of accessing the properties. You can update them, delete them, unless they're read-only. Alright, so let's move on to the next concept, object methods. Now basically, a JavaScript method is an action that can be performed on the objects. So you'll understand better with the help of the demo. So let's go back to our VS Code. And here I've created another HTML file called objects_methods. Alright, so let me just copy the initial code, paste it here, and let's have the enclosing tags as well. And HTML. Alright, now here I declare another tag, that is the button tag. So we're going to be making use of button here. So I say button ID equals click me. So that is the action that I'm going to be performing. And the message that is going to be displayed on the button will be click me. Alright. So we're going to see the usage of it a little later. Now let's go ahead and create an object. So I say script, within which I create the user object. So we're creating using a object literal here, and I declare the property name as Chris again, and age say 24. Okay, so let's close this. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new function that we will use as an object method. Alright, so I say function, and let's give the name say hi. Okay. Within the function we basically display a message. So we're going to say alert and hello. Alright, so this is going to be displayed in a separate dialog box. So now once the declaration is done, what we're going to do is we're going to use create another property, basically say user dot, let's say message, and assign say hi to it. So basically what we're doing is we're adding the previously created method to a new property that is user.message, the message property. Alright. So now I say document.getElementById and say demo. And the message that I want is just hi plus the username. Alright. So what we're going to do is we're going to display the message hello, alright, when the user clicks on the button. So for that, let's just copy this. And here, instead of demo, right, we're going to be passing the ID click me as per this. And the event is going to be on click event. So here I say on click, after which I'm going to simply pass user.message. Let me just delete this. Alright, so here I notice that I've given an equal to sign. I'm sorry, it's a colon. Alright, so let's save the file and let's go ahead and execute it. Alright, so here you can see hi Chris being displayed, and once we click on the button, you can see an alert which says hello. Alright. So now let's move on to the next concept, that is Java Object Accessors. Now getters and setters allow defining an object accessor. Alright, to get the value of a property in a JavaScript object, we use a getter, and to set the value of a property of a JavaScript object, we use a setter. So let's go back to our demo, and now let me create another file, and let's call it Object Accessors. And now again, let me just copy the first initial part. Alright, so now let's go ahead and create a new object. So let me say script, within which I say var, and let's call it car. Alright, so let me define the properties, say model, and the model is say BMW 320D, and another property say color, and let's say it's navy blue, and the last property say fuel type, and let's say it's diesel. Now what we can do is we can make use of the keyword get to access the properties. So I say get and say fuel, within which I return this dot fuel type. Alright, it's as simple as that. So now let's display it. Document dot get element by ID, demo dot inner HTML equals, we say car dot fuel. Alright, so now let's save it and execute our file. Here you go, it retrieves diesel for us. Now this is one of the ways of accessing the properties. Now to help you understand setter, let's go ahead and create another object. Alright, say var car again. Now let's say the model is Audi A4. Color be bright red. And fuel type, let's keep it blank. Alright. Now to set the value, we use the set keyword. We say set fuel, and the parameter is fuel, within which we say this dot fuel type equals fuel, right? Now let's set the value for the fuel. Say car dot fuel equals petrol. Alright. Now let's display the same. Let me copy this. And what we want to display is the fuel type, right? So here we say fuel type. So let's save this. And let's go ahead and execute the file. And there we go. It retrieves petrol. So what it does is basically it assigns the value petrol to the property fuel type, and then we display the same on our web page. So this is how you make use of getters and setters. Alright, so with that we come to the end of this session on JavaScript objects. If you have any doubts, let us know in the comment section below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Watch out for more videos by us. Until then, keep learning and stay tuned to Simplilearn.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.